Christians and Jews United for Israel's 11th Annual Genesis Awards Program. Please rise as the flag of the United States and the flag of the State of Israel are brought forward to the stage. Yes. To lead us in the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner. Rabbi Turns will lead us in singing Hatikva.
Charles, don't worry. This will be a couple seconds. I just want to say to you what Moses said to Joshua prior to his conquering the promised land from 7 Canaanite armies. He said, Chazak v'amatz, which means be strong and of good courage. Israel has strength and she has the courage. And you need both. Strength is wonderful, but not if it doesn't have the courage to apply it. Courage is wonderful if it has the strength. Israel has both, so do all of you. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Strength and courage. Hello, my name is Charles Jacobs, and I have the very special honor of coordinating today's program. Just a few notes. I just see that Andrea Levin and Ken Levin of camera have arrived. Yay! Thank you for coming, our heroes. Is Rachel Cohen here? Rachel Cohen? From the consulate, from the Israeli consulate. Thank you for coming. Stand up, Rachel. From the Israeli consulate. Thank you very much, Rachel. As you can tell by the, I said the cell phone thing, right? You don't have your cell phone. That's good. As you can tell by the rather unique way you were treated as you entered here, we have a very precious honoree. One whose presence and whose message is the most important thing we have here today. So forgive me if I press us on to move things along so that we can have the most possible time with Ayan Hirsiali. For those of you who are new to us, Christians and Jews United for Israel was founded in 2006 to provide informed, active responses to the global anti-Israel campaign that is increasingly permeating public discourse. In Europe, this campaign has led to violence and even to murder of Jews, many of whom are contemplating a mass exodus from the continent. And yet right here too in Boston, every week there are events, lectures, so-called news reports, films that defame and lie about Israel, in progressive churches, on college campuses, in community centers, in the Museum of Fine Arts Film Festival, and even in our public schools. On college campuses, Jewish students are harassed, mocked, and intimidated. The Jewish community is under assault. CJUI understands that the attack on the Jewish state is nothing but a new version of anti-Semitism. Led by their consciences, their biblical convictions, and with a growing understanding that they are targeted in common by the world's most hateful ideology and violent movements, Christians and Jews here at CJUI embrace one another and share their common love for Israel in an active way. If you are not a member of CJUI, you need to sign up today. We gather here today at a momentous time. Listen to these three simple, devastating facts. 1, there is a surge of anti-Semitism across the globe. 2, the Christians in the Middle East are being murdered, raped, crucified, and expelled from their biblical lands. 3, there is a growing threat of terror attacks right here in the homeland. Sadly, the major Jewish and Christian establishment organizations have mostly failed to understand these challenges and to act. Therefore, we need ordinary people like yourselves to become active. You, we, all of us have a moral obligation to our way of life, to our children, and to our children's children. You cannot sit here today and enjoy this program and then go back home as a passive witness. Everything in our common history calls out to you to act. Now there's a special urgency. A full-page ad in yesterday's New York Times alerted us to the fact that senior Israeli officials and pro-Israel policymakers and writers are deeply, alarmingly concerned about reports that right after the election, President Obama plans to go to the United Nations, and as Charles Krauthammer put it, to take a parting shot at Israel. He plans to go to the United Nations. For months there have been indications that the president might go to the UN with his own version of a two-state solution, which would be enshrined in a new Security Council resolution, which would officially recognize a Palestinian state on the territory Israel captured in the 1967 Six-Day War. The Palestinian state, therefore, could come into being not through negotiations by the parties on the ground, which is the long-standing American policy, but through an imposed international law. The Boston Israel Action Committee a sister grassroots group here, is urging American Jewish leaders to speak out. We need everybody to express fervent opposition to this horrible plan. BIAC will have a petition out in a few days. This is the full-page ad in yesterday's New York Times, placed there by the ZOA, by the Zionist Organization of America. We need immediate action. We are sounding the alarm. This is worse than the UNESCO's recent decision that the Temple Mount was never Jewish. You know, Jews need humor at times like this. It's supposed to be therapeutic. So listen, there might be an upside to UNESCO's discovery that the Temple Mount is not Jewish, but Islamic. So, my Christian friends, you could see it couldn't possibly have been Jewish money changers that Jesus threw out of the temple. They weren't there. Ask UNESCO. It must have been Muslim money changers. And the crucifixion? We weren't anywhere near the place. Ask the UN. UNESCO is an awful thing, but it's only words. The Security Council resolution, on the other hand, granting statehood to the Palestinian Arabs, translates into actual international law and has consequences on the ground. So here is CJUI's call for action. We need you. We need some of you to join and help our leadership. If you are retired, if you have talents, if you have fire in the belly, if you know how to work, please do not just sit there. History will ask of you. Your children will ask of you. What did you do at this time to help Israel and the Jewish people? What did you do to help the Christians in the Middle East? You have a moral duty to act. Don't just sit there. Join us and come see me if you want to work with CJUI to defend our freedom. Now it's my honor to introduce Ray Hanna, the president of CJUI, who will present the first of our 2 Genesis Awards. Ray Hanna came to America from Cairo, Egypt, with his family, where as Coptic Christians they were a minority, and where Sharia law is written into the Constitution, and where Islam rules. Their only hope of freedom of religion and escaping religious persecution was to come to these shores. A defining moment for Ray's family came in 1996, when it happened that both Easter and the Muslims' Ramadan coincided on the calendar. To celebrate, the Egyptian government distributed a delicacy to everyone, pickled fish, except that they gave the Christians tainted, contaminated fish, and Ray saw 3 family members die and 27 become hospitalized. On 9/11/2001, Ray knew that Islamic Jihad had come to America. Searching for an organization to join, none were to be found until 2008, when he joined Act for America, the largest national security grassroots movement in the United States that today has over 250,000 members and more than 800 chapters. Ray has been serving as the Boston chapter leader of ACT ever since. He is also CJUI's president. We need people to come forward and work with Ray. It's my honor to introduce Ray Hanna.
Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart to every single one here sitting in our chairs today. It is without you that we would not be able to push forward. So first and foremost, I want to take just 20 seconds and ask God for his protection over us as we hear this wonderful speaker and as we go forth beyond this event and do great things. Thank you, dear God in heaven, for this congregation today. Thank you for blessing us, for giving us the grace to be here, to be amongst friends, to be amongst those who consider themselves Zionists, as I do. Thank you, dear God, for all that you have given us and all that you will us to do. Amen. Amen. I know Charles gave just a very quick, brief introduction as to my presidency at CJUI. And I just wanted to extrapolate for 2 seconds on that. And that is, I came to Christians and Jews United for Israel out of a passion for Israel, out of a love for Israel, and out of the understanding that in the Middle East, where 23 Muslim majority nations work hard at not only attacking any religious minority, but work hard at attacking and decimating Israel. And I have learned through my ability to have freedom of speech, freedom of thought here in the United States, that I have learned that the only country in this Middle East region, 24 countries, only one country protects my religious sites, protects my ability to practice as a Christian, protects all that we hold dear, including the most precious pilgrimage to Israel. And they do that unequivocally, without hesitation, and for that, I will be forever grateful to the state of Israel. As Dr. Charles Jacobs just alluded to, our first recipient, I will have the pleasure of introducing. I just wanted to say a couple of quick thank yous. Thank you to Americans for Peace and Tolerance for all that you have done. Dr. Charles Jacobs has done. Thank you to the Russian Jewish Community Foundation for all the work that you have done with us to help us. Please see our sponsor tables, specifically Act for America, the FIDF. They have a wonderful event that's coming up. Please go to their table and see what they have to offer. I want to thank personally the board of directors. Without their help, we could not be here today. I want to thank Helga Lovestick, Bob Abrams, Margot Einstein, everybody, Tina Berlin, everybody here that has been helping us, Luis Munoz and Delmi Chacon from our Hispanic community have been stalwarts and assisting and volunteering in every way they can. If I have missed anybody, please forgive me. I want to say thank you most of all to Bev and Larry Copeland, our chairs for this event.
Bravo!
Bev and Larry have worked tirelessly with the rest of the committee to make this happen. The reason that you are sitting here in these seats today is because of those two people, to which I am eternally grateful for all of the work that they do. Without them, this could not have happened. I finally want to thank Gail Thomas, who, along with Bev, have made this event happen. But Gail is leaving us and she's moving to Georgia. This will be her last event. She will be greatly and sorely missed. And I will not know what to do other than to call her in Georgia every once in a while and say, Gail, how did you do that? So Gail, please stand up for one last time. Thank you so much. And finally, I want to thank our previous presidents, Fumio Tako. Fumio. First President, May Long. Thank you so much. On with the program and let's get this ball rolling. Today, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Andrew Jacobson. I have seen Andrew grow from a young gentleman, from a young boy, to the young man that he is right now. And I'll tell you how I saw him grow. I saw him grow through his mother's eyes. Leah, thank you, and of course, Dad too. Thank you so much for the work that you have done to bring up such a phenomenal young man. Andrew has the courage to go into the belly of the beast, Brandeis University. and become a university staff writer at the Justice, an independent newspaper. He is a fellow at Tikva, and is originally from Swampscott. But what I really want to say about Andrew is I've seen him speak. I've seen his courage. I have seen what, through the support and courage and encouragement of parents, what fine, fine men and women we can bring as the next torchbearers. I want to say to you that Zionism starts at home. And this man, Andrew Jacobson, is a great example of what it means to be a Zionist, Christian or Jewish. Andrew, on behalf of Christians and Jews United for Israel, we present you with the Pomegranate Award for your enduring love of Israel, your passion, and may you go forth, be blessed, and do great things for the state of Israel and the United States of America.
Great, thank you so much. It's a real honor to stand before you all today. Thank you very, very, very much for having me. Just 2 years ago, I sat in this very audience opposite Dan O'Mayo, Chloe Valdari, and Brett Stevens. And their collective intellectual courage that day, their moral clarity inspired me to deepen my identity as a Zionist. And I think from that day, I've only become more of a Zionist. And today, we gather here together as supporters of Israel, Jews and Christians. The very concept of joint support for Israel is wonderful, but the reality of the CJUI is more than wonderful. It's important, it's necessary, and it's downright vital. So thank you all for being here very much. As Dr. Jacobs mentioned, we sit here today on the heels of disturbing changes going on in the Middle East, particularly Israel. Just recently, UNESCO passed another resolution denying Jewish ties to the Temple Mount. According to the Jerusalem Post, the resolution passed by a slim majority. Our precious Israel, it seems, is sadly always under attack, militarily, in the media, and now in the battle for historical narrative. We must take heart, though, because this is nothing new. But despite being under attack since before its inception, Israel has grown to become a beacon of light, especially as the only country in the Middle East with a growing Christian population. It is in this ever-present duality, a deep awareness of both difficulty and hope, that we see in Shimon Peres, one of Israel's founding fathers who we lost just weeks ago. In some ways, following the legacy of Yitzhak Rabin, Peres was a relentless optimist. It was something he had earned the right to be, he once said. His detractors on both sides of the ideological spectrum may have called Peres naive and idealistic, chasing hopelessly after some romantic vision of peace. But I believe his critics got it wrong. In part, I think they got that erroneous impression from the radiant smile Peres seemed to carry wherever he went. A smile that inspired the nation of Israel to believe and never give up on the dream of the all-too-elusive peace. I don't think he was naive, nor do I think his pursuit of peace was hopeless, despite his failure to see a resolution made during his lifetime. Feeling compelled to understand his optimism, I searched for the roots of his positive attitude. Sure enough, I found them in the most difficult of places, in the demise of his family in the Holocaust, in witnessing the myriad of terror attacks of the last half-century on Israeli soil, in his full awareness of the hate-mongering education system in Gaza and elsewhere. But today I want to focus on Israel's supreme regard for life, which I experienced personally this past summer when I lived and worked in Tel Aviv. I was on a startup internship program called Tamid, whose mission is to expose undergraduate business-minded students to the Israeli economy. There are 3 anecdotes from the program I'd like to share with you today. The first has to do with my daily commute to work. It was a Monday, and the day began like all others. I grabbed my usual plum and coffee from the local supermarket, and strolled over to my usual bus stop. The sun was shining bright, and the morning traffic was heavy. But as soon as I saw the red tape, I knew something was off. Within a few minutes, police had shut down the area and closed the road. There was a bomb threat at the bus stop. I stood to watch. Each minute felt like an eternity. After about a half an hour, boom, I heard and felt an explosion. The force shook me. Thanks to the professional Israeli police, the area had already been cleared and no one was injured. It may have been a real bomb, but more likely, the police were deliberately blowing up a bag that had just been left there. Either way, that morning was a wake-up call. That morning was a salient reminder that although Tel Aviv is a bubble, although it was a place for family, friends, lovers, and professionals, we were still in Israel and needed to remain vigilant. A reminder that Israel and life is a precious gift. It's really a miracle I survived that day. But the craziest thing is that immediately after the explosion, life went right back to normal. I walked over to the bus stop, the same bus stop, got on my normal bus, and proceeded to have a relatively normal day. It's all on purpose. We can't let terror stop our lives. And Israelis, more than any other people, I think, understand that. This is the courage of Israel, to acknowledge the evil, yet focus on the gift of life. A few weeks prior, our group visited Har Herzl, Israel's military cemetery in Jerusalem. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and seen their soul? It's remarkable, intimate, and frightening all at the same time. That day we visited Har Herzl, I'm convinced I saw a soul. It belonged to an Israeli soldier killed in the 2014 Gaza war. I don't remember his name, only that he was 19 and had a family. A recent photo of him laid against his tombstone, and something about him I connected with profoundly. I started crying. I realized that my tears were a manifestation of sadness, yes, but more importantly, a testament to the strength of our peoplehood, and the sense of belonging to Israel that I'm so grateful to have. This sense of belonging is not unique to me, but it may be unique to Israel. In the West, we tend to be individualistic, but what Israel has adopted is very different. There's something special, a real sense of brotherhood. The third anecdote begins with a free weekend I had to travel. A friend of mine with family in Jerusalem invited me over. Just a month prior, this family's house in Beit Shemesh, a suburb of Jerusalem, had actually burned down from a fire in their kitchen. Miraculously, thanks to their neighbor, everyone had been saved. They were now living in a small temporary apartment in Jerusalem with 4 little children. Space was quite limited, and yet they invited guests to spend Shabbat. The youngest son helped us cut an empty 2-liter Coke bottle into a vase for the flowers we brought. Conversation wasn't on the loss, rather it was lively. And while they were still in need of clothes and some other basic necessities, they were simply grateful to be alive. They were joyous. Needless to say, their priority was life. These 3 experiences, the bomb threat, the soul seeing at Har Herzl, and the weekend with the very generous family that had just lost its home, revealed much to me about Israel's regard for human life. The bomb threat reflected Israel's resilience and drive for normalcy. The soul seeing at Har Herzl reflected the strong community and sense of belonging that is Israel. And the weekend with the family in Jerusalem taught me extreme hospitality, of resilience despite having lost their home weeks earlier, and about the importance of connecting with each other, even a stranger like myself. Now let me briefly explain how I got here. I grew up in Isaiah's home, thanks Mom and Dad. I spent years at Jewish sleepaway camp and Hebrew school, and I've spent much time in Israel, thanks to them, from family trips to summer camp to youth programs and working there. With each trip, my level of understanding, appreciation, and love for Israel strengthens. I made the connection, but there are many out there that haven't. Together, as proud Zionist Christians and Jews, we will help enlighten the world, because there's much work still to be done. That is, by telling the truth about Israel, that she's the only democracy in the Middle East, a safe haven for Jews and Christians, and a place of tolerance. Together, we carry the mantle of truth that Israel loves life. Thank you very much.
There's the proud mother right over there. Can we hire him? I want to call forward Gail Thomas.
Bravo! Bravo!
A cheering section. But you know who needs the cheering section? I love what you said. Yeah, you really set the stage. I had no idea what you were going to speak on, but it really resonates with the heart because the people are the heart of Israel. And, excuse me, you're right. And it's such a privilege to go and visit the land. And one of the things that I've had the opportunity to do is to go into the heartland. You know, this is what is called the biblical heartland. It is where so much, you open the scriptures and what you see that is occurring in the scriptures comes right out of this precious part of Israel. And I really want to bring forward what we're going to talk. We're going to be taking an offering in a minute. We see all the things we have an opportunity to participate in here on this side of the ocean, and yet we have also that great privilege of being able to reach out, reach right into the communities, reach into the lives of the people in the land itself. The land where so many of us would identify as that other home that we have, whether it's in our heart or in reality. And what I'd like to bring is the information, a little bit of information about a community in the Hebron area and the region of Judea, and it's Othniel. They have experienced a lot of hardship. It's an isolated community, and made up of approximately 120 families. And over the years, I'm going to give a little list of what they've experienced. These are not just statistics or a magazine article. These are what they are experiencing literally in their lives. In 1994, rabbi of the community was murdered by terrorists. In 2000, 4 residents were killed on the roads. In 2002, a terrorist made his way into the yeshiva's kitchen and murdered 4 young boys. Remember that story, how horrific that was? No, in November, this November, Rabbi Yaakov Lippman and his son Nathaniel were killed on the road just as they were arriving home. And then in this past January, we remember the stories. O'Neill resident Daphne Mayer killed in the very doorway of her home as she was protecting the entryway for her children behind her. And so she was killed literally in front of her teenage daughter. You know, this is an experience that they live with day by day. We may hear about these things, but they are in the midst of them. And yet, the beautiful words that were spoken here is that this community draws together in love and light, and they go on. And we have an opportunity today to encourage that, to help to build a center for young children, a music center, places that they can come and gather and be that greater family that they represent. And we can feed into that by providing the finances that will enable them to really move into that dynamic of life goes on. Life is precious. And so I encourage you today, as the ushers come and they pass the basket, to think of these precious residents in this community who have been through great horror, yet they continue to proclaim life. They continue to look for ways to come together, to teach their children, to raise their children the very things that we were talking about here. It's these children being raised with that level of courage, that level of understanding, that level of embracing life that will continue to make Israel be the wonderful nation that we know it to be. The nation that we stand here today because we want to undergird her and support her and show our love for her in ways that we can do even though we are here by reaching in and giving vital and very realistic aid. So I encourage you to know that as we go in, these are people that when I've had the opportunity, I haven't been to this particular community, but I've been to several communities, and to talk with the people is so encouraging. The hearts, it's like they're wearing their hearts outside. It's like, why are you here? And how could we not be here? And it's just, it's so precious. And so again, the baskets will pass, and if you will dig deep, because this is something we can really do. We can really be a part of. We can participate. So I thank you ahead of time.
thank you for each one of you who are here. You know, you are lovers of Israel. And that is so phenomenal in a world that, well, we don't need to fill in the blanks. But you are all so precious, and you are all counted as worthy. Thank you. Thank you for coming today.
Bravo!